Hi girls, just wanted to connect with you and send you happy Easter wishes. Here's an idea for you to make an Easter cake for your family. I'm making 3 layers, but you can reduce the ingredients to make 2 if you're short on ingredients. So let's start with lining the tin. To line the tin, you need some parchment that's about 1 inch wider than the circumference of the tin. You also need a scissors. Just cut around the parchment to create a circle. You don't have to be awfully accurate with this. And then so that it sits into the tin, fold it in half, and just cut in like this. And then your paper should sit into the tin like that. And when the cake mixture goes in, it will smooth that out. And that's the lining of your tin. This is the equipment you're going to need to make this cake. And remember, like in class, we have 2 plates, one for our clean cutlery and then one to put our cutlery onto when we've used it. I have an electric whisk here, but if you don't have one, you can always use a balloon whisk like this, but it's going to require quite a lot of beating. The ingredients then that are needed for this cake, we have 275 grams of margarine, 275 grams of caster sugar, 4 eggs, 275 grams of flour, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 20 grams of cocoa, 125 millilitres of Greek yogurt. If you don't have Greek yogurt, you can use milk, and a generous teaspoon of vanilla. I like my vanilla essence. At this stage, you can preheat the oven to 180 degrees Celsius, or if you're using a gas oven, that would be gas mark 4. To make this cake then, you first of all need to combine the margarine and sugar. Now always check that your electric whisk is in working order before you put in your ingredients. So take the margarine and make sure your margarine is at room temperature. It's much easier to beat if it's at room temperature. So that's your margarine and 275 grams of sugar. And then beat those until it's light and fluffy and changes to a nice pale colour. You'll know it's ready when it is pale and fluffy and creamy in colour, and it has increased in volume, and it's all nicely incorporated and looks very creamy. We're going to start adding the eggs then one at a time. Back in one of the eggs. And we're going to beat this until it comes back to this lovely creamy texture. That's 1, 2, 3 and 4. You just add them one at a time. So when you've got the right consistency and it looks like this, all well combined, you're going to add the flour. So as I said, we have a teaspoon of baking powder that we're going to add to the self-raising flour. And we need to sieve this in to get air into the cake to make it nice and light. So we're using 2 raising agents here, self-raising flour, baking powder, and now we're doing extra air by sieving. Don't beat it at this stage, you can just use a wooden spoon to fold this in because we're trying to keep as much air as we can. We're ready now to add either 125 millilitres of Greek yogurt or milk, whichever. Now I'm going to hold back a little bit of the Greek yogurt because I'm making this cake with 3 layers. So I'm going to keep a little bit back for the chocolate part of this because I don't want that to get too dry when the cocoa is added. So add in the yogurt, and at this stage you can also add in the vanilla essence. And again, we're just going to mix all this gently together until it's nice and smooth. It's really beginning to look very nice now. So the vanilla part of this cake is now ready. So just clean off the spoon. And then we are making 3 layers, so I'm going to take out the part that's going to be chocolate at this stage, and I'll put that into a separate bowl. And I'm just eyeballing this. If you want to be really precise about it, you can measure them. So you need to make sure each cake is going to end up in the same size. And this, remember, is called a spatula. And that's for getting all the remaining ingredients out of the tin. Now, I don't think I measured those too well. So I'm going to take some of what I thought was going to be the chocolate mixture, put it back in there, because we do want them to be kind of the same size. Okay, I think that's about right. And then you just smooth that out. Okay. For the last part now, to make the chocolate layer for this cake, I'm going to add cocoa into the other mixture. Now again, we're just going to mix that gently, and we're also going to add in this Greek yogurt that we held over. So we get the same consistency in the 3 cakes. So there, that looks absolutely delicious. So we're just going to pour this into the other tin. And then these 3 cakes are ready for the oven. And they're going to take about 35 minutes to cook. And as I say in class, if they look this good, not cooked, can you imagine what they're going to be like when they are cooked? Okay, so those 3 are ready for the oven now. So let's go and put them in. So we're going to pop these into the oven now. They are going to take about 30 to 35 minutes at 180 degrees Celsius. So 30 to 35 minutes later, we think the cakes are done. So we're going to take them out. That looks good. This one looks good. And one more. We can switch off the oven. And then to check that they're cooked, we're going to use a skewer. Or you can use a knife if you don't have a skewer. And then if it comes out clean, there's no mixture on it, we know the cakes are done. So the 3 of those are cooked perfectly. So we leave the cakes to cool for a little while in the tins, just to let them settle a bit. And after about 5 minutes, we're going to take them out and put them on a wire rack and leave them until they're completely cold. So in the meantime, you can start making the icing or the frosting. So at this stage, the cakes have been cooling for about an hour. They're completely cold. You mustn't be tempted to ice them while they're still warm, otherwise the icing or the frosting will just melt off them. So we're ready now to make our frosting. And for this frosting, we're going to use 200 grams of unsalted butter. It's usually in a silver wrapper like this. 50 grams of mascarpone cheese. And you could use 250 grams of butter and leave out the cheese. I just think it gives a really nice texture, so I like to add the mascarpone cheese. We also have 500 grams of icing sugar. We have 50 grams of cocoa, because it's a chocolate frosting I'm making. I have some vanilla essence. And I also have some milk, which I haven't measured because I just need to eyeball it when I get to that stage. You just need enough to get the correct consistency so we can pipe it. And the equipment we need for this is, you know, there's specialist equipment. I don't have an awful lot of it, but I do happen to have palette knives. I have that's like that, which I'm going to try and use. And also we're going to need a piping bag and a nozzle if you have one. If you don't have a nozzle, you could make a piping bag with greaseproof paper and just cut the end of it and get a straight nozzle on the end. So I will leave that until later. To make our frosting then, we put the butter into the bowl. And it is at room temperature, but if I put the icing sugar in here now, it's just going to fly everywhere. So I'm going to beat the butter for a few minutes so it'll be easier to incorporate the icing sugar. the icing sugar gradually, otherwise it's just going to plume up. Okay, I'm going to add a drop of milk. At this stage we can add the mascarpone cheese also. I'm going to add the vanilla essence at this stage and another drop of milk. You just keep beating it until you get it all incorporated and you get it into a piping consistency. I've just added the cocoa powder now, so just start off slowly. And just beat it. Now you need to beat it for 2 or 3 minutes to get the sugar to start dissolving, so that you get a nice creamy texture. So now we're ready to assemble the cake. So this is the plate I'm going to use. So we're going to put one of the vanilla cakes on the base, and then we're going to put the chocolate one on next. So just take some frosting and notice the texture of this frosting. Now it's thin enough that we will be able to pipe it, but it's thick enough that it's able to hold its shape. Okay, we'll just go out to the edges with that. Okay, so that's ready for the second cake. And we're putting these upside down on the plate so that we get a nice smooth surface. So we're ready to put on the final layer of the cake now. So we'll put on some more frosting and then just smooth it out like we did with the other one. It doesn't matter if you go out over the edge because we're going to frost the side of it anyhow. Okay. That final one on top, and now we're going to put frosting all around the sides and on the top. So you just keep turning the cake and adding more frosting as needed. And you do need to be quite generous with the frosting. Now if you have a turning wheel, that would help as well, but you don't really need one. Okay, so you just continue on like that until you get a nice smooth surface around the edge and on the top. So if you were making this and you had a lot more time than I have at the moment, you do what's called a crumb base on it. So you put on a very thin layer of the frosting. You can still see the cake through it, so it's really a base layer, and then you put it in the fridge for an hour, and then that will allow it to firm up, and then you can put another layer of frosting on it, or you can then apply fondant icing, or both. In this case I'm just going to use some buttons, white and dark buttons, and I'm just going to pipe a few swirls on the top. So to do that, we'll put some frosting into our piping bag. Push the frosting through, and then it's always a good idea just to practice on something. Yeah, they'll be just perfect. Okay, so now you need a delicate hand for this. This is working out nicely. But you'll have to be going on a diet after it. Anyhow, it's Easter. Okay, I think I might put some more actually, just around here. And then we might just put the buttons around between the two layers. I think that looks quite sweet at the moment, quite nice. So maybe we'll just go with the white buttons on the top. At this stage now you can get creative with Easter eggs or buttons or sweets or whatever. It's Easter, you haven't been eating sweets since Lent started, I'm assuming. So it's time now to go and get our sugar fix. So I'm just simply going to use white buttons to decorate this. You can use whatever you like. I'm just going to go with a simple pattern. And try and keep them all straight. So you can use whatever you have. So this is the finished cake. As I said, you can decorate your own cake whatever way you like, but what I'd like you to do is to practice your cake making skills, and maybe starting off with something like this. You know, all of this comes with practice, but I'd like you to keep busy doing things. I know it's hard to get ingredients at the moment because shopping is so limited. Flour seems to be in very short supply, but hopefully you have some in your houses. I think this would be a really rewarding thing for you to do. For your families, maybe, you know, a homemade Easter cake to have on Easter Sunday. I think that would be really special. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. It's the first of a few that I'm going to try and do for you. Otherwise I can recommend you know, the better ones. There are an awful lot of tutorials online, but some of them are better than others, so I might have a look at that, and maybe you could get yourselves busy in the kitchen. And please help out at home at the moment. It's a stressful time for everybody, you know, so make the most of it. But, you know, a nice dose of sugar makes us all have a moment of happiness. So I miss you all. Mind yourselves, wash your hands, stay at home, and don't eat too much cake. And I hope to see you all soon.